The Huntsman by Very Good Knife Company. Today I tried a spot of motorcycle carry and I found the sheath excellent. I really like the design, the way they did the kydex with this simple piece of seatbelt here. Well, I guess they call it webbing. It dangles very nicely and it doesn't, it moves around, but it doesn't do any of this twisty turny stuff. It's secure, excellent retention, and a very satisfactory click. I also brought the Big Muck. You can have a look at the sheath on this. It's a simple leather, very good quality. They put a dangler on it. I love that. Maybe the lighting is better this way. So a couple of drawbacks. I did slice the sheath here a couple of times, drawing the knife. So that is, user error, but it's certainly easy to do with this sheath. And when it gets humid, there was some mold on the sheath when it was damp in the house. That happens more or less, but it does happen more or less with some leathers or others. And this one, it had the mold and it wiped off and it looks fine. So I like the sheath. And I love the knife. It's a good combo. Stick this in. Okay, that's not a good idea. We'll just put him back in the sheaths for now. That's better. Click. Schlock. See what else we got. So yeah, as promised, the William Collins. The sheath on this, I put this orange leather on, kind of was thinking to match the orange pins, and I had some orange leather, but if I just use this on a dangler, it'll flip around in all directions because of the weighting of it. So I need to redo something that has, something approximate to this might work better, But otherwise, it's a very nice sheath. It's got this nice green color and pretty good retention and so forth. Now I cleaned up these knives. I have a new sharpening system, a Tormek T8, which is lovely. And I also got this one, grabbed this one for testing, and because I thought that the edge was very thick on it. I kind of started in on it, and then I kind of messed up the finish, and so in the end, I worked a fair bit on thinning out the secondary bevel and blending it into the primary bevel. Ergo, now it is kind of convexed. Whereby, to my mind, it's a step closer to a real kind of leuku thing, because before it had this high saber grind with a very thick primary bevel. So yeah, very indestructible seeming, but I didn't think it cut that well. And I haven't really tried cutting anything with it yet. So let's see. Yeah. I can feel the hairs landing on my hand, so yes. It's shaving. And it's shaving my beard hair, which would be a lot more challenging than the downy fluff on my arm. So yeah, I like it. I ruined the original aesthetic. It looks a lot messier, but it is better now by my lights. So I thought that was a good contender as well, because I'm on a comparative study Last Huntsman vibe. So yeah, on my motorcycle ride earlier, I noticed this oak tree here with this lovely dead branch sticking out of it. Looks very solid and like an excellent piece of firewood. So I thought I would have a chop on that with these various knives for our edification and enjoyment, and so that I get a piece of firewood at the end of the day. So the first thing I'm going to do, have a look up, symbolically, because I already did for Widowmakers, and I already identified that this piece here was going to come out just like that. Excellent kindling, hollow all the way down. Something I learned about hardwood versus softwood. Softwood rots from the outside in, and hardwood rots from the inside out. So, yeah. Let's have a chop, shall we? So now we can do the sticky any test. Can I get it to stick in? Yeah? Let's try that with the reef. Significantly smaller and lighter knife. Yeah. Let's try that with the William Collins, which is size and weight wise very evenly matched, but I think that the difference in the blade profile is very interesting. Huh. No, maybe because I hit it with the Scandi part. I mean, then no, because of the weight. So again, what kind of a test is this? Pretty goofy, but we're nearly there. Huh. I mean, that, you know, you can see how with the forward heaviness of this thing, yeah, here we got on the Huntsman, we got a balance point right around the finger guard there on this. A little further forward. So now, what I thought I might do is about 30 seconds of chopping with each. Fortunately, I've kind of already mussed up my subject material somewhat, but anyway, just to give us an idea. Pretty devastating. Let's try the Huntsman. Yeah. Not bad. Let's try the reef. I'm going to use the lanyard. My hand's getting tired already. Wasn't really looking at my watch well to start out there, but we'll call that good. Now, the William Collins. This has this kind of half lanyard thing here you grip onto. Well, yeah, I'm knackered. Right. So, what was that? Brisa, Huntsman, Reef, William Collins. Now up here, the wood is very punky, and down here it is not so much so. And that completely distorts the test. But, subjectively, so far, I'll hand it to the Brisa. The Brisa is number one. And it's got all those extra inches, so it's no wonder. No wonder, right? But weight-wise, pretty similar. It just feels great. No vibration. Really bites. Yeah, nice. Now, for me, second, William Collins. Very authoritative kind of funk to it. And I'm not getting any kind of deflection, is it? You know, where it kind of bounces and twists in your hand. None of that from either of these. They both have contoured handles. Much more dramatically so on the William Collins. But this is definitely 3D all the way, top to bottom. And they both have flats on them. This part here, flat. Flat going down. And on this one, 3 flats. Flat here, and flat there. Legitimately flat. Good indexing. Good grip. Yeah, good. Now then I would probably, let me just try this again. Figuring these two, yeah. Huntsman, I'd say it cuts more. Cuts a little more, but I rate them similarly in terms of the satisfactoriness of the performance, which is very satisfactory. I did see Jacob Peterson reviewing this knife, and he said that it wasn't a chopper. And I thought, well, okay, you know, I can see how it's not a competition chopper, it's not so long as to be a real chopping knife. It's more multi-purpose. But how are you not going to call it a chopper when it's got this big old choppy blade and this thing on it? I mean, I'd call it a chopper. You know, me with my 4-inch chopper. This for me is a legit chopper. Now I take Jacob Peterson's point. It doesn't feel like a chopper to me. It feels like it can do it very capably indeed. But this very thin flat grind, even though I think that the steel is very good and the heat treatment and all of that, I would, you know, I don't know that I know, but my take thus far is that it's all excellent. So you could chop a lot with this knife. It wouldn't really be abuse. It can do it. But it's just not dialed in so much for chopping. And something that I noticed yesterday and today, aside from the little bugbear with the bird's beak here, is that it seems to twist a little bit in my hand to deflect when I'm chopping. You know, if I don't get it quite right, it kind of bounces off, you know. Not very problematic, but it's a little disconcerting, you know. I guess I can get the other ones to bounce, right? But you have to make it bounce. And this, you know, this is something interesting as well about knives for me in general, and perhaps in particular this William Collins knife. Huh? I'll hang it. It sounds like a piece of wet wood. It doesn't ring. No ring to it. Now, it has been suggested to me by knifey people that, you know, this ring, ding, crouching tiger, hidden dragon, shing, that's your good blade, right? It's got to sing. Well, I know that harmonics is also what breaks a blade, right? So, I'm not convinced that it has to ching like a bell, right? Bells crack sometimes as well. I'm not saying it doesn't either. All I'm saying is that this knife is an A+++ knife, and it sounds like it has no soul. And I don't know what particular alchemy William Collins uses to achieve this. I have no idea. But it's interesting, I reckon. So, this thing is a ways away because I was chopping down here, and it's kind of goes all the way up. Am I going to capture this? Can't really see because of the... So, I think I'll move on to this piece here. And let's maybe try some fire sticking or something, right? Something a bit more whittly. So first we'd want to break this down a little bit, right? We'll put some chops in this, using these 4 knives. Thank you for bearing with me, anyone who's watching. I don't like to stop and try and edit stuff because issues with that. So I'm just going. So naturally with this knife, you just chop in with that point there. Awesome. Let's try the reef. Now this is the thing, like with a lighter knife like this, I find that my cadence goes up and it's less energy to swing. So that's an argument in favor of the smaller knife at the end of the day, because it's also easier to carry around. I'm really liking the way this is chopping right now. For a small knife. This handle shape, also good. 3D. It's kind of flattest in the well here. Kind of the opposite, actually, to the William Collins, where here on the palm swell and on this bolster and pommel kind of areas, it's flat up the top here. This is most rounded on the middle here, and it's flattest down there, or down here. Anyway, I think it's a similar effect at the end of the day, right? Gives you extra surface area to grip onto because of the contouring. Coastline theory, my friends. Now, the Huntsman. Whew. I mean, it really does cut in. The feel, you can probably hear the difference. It's more tack, less tonk. So really more knife. More knife-like and less kind of axe-like, to my mind. So, you know, I'm giving it hard. I don't know that I'm seeing... nothing. I'm not seeing anything significant on that edge. The reef edge is unscathed, and I thinned it out a lot. That's sticky. William Collins, unfazed. They're all fine. They're all fine. They're all made to take it. Now, down here doing this job with the longer knife feels less secure because I'm having to use, you know, when I'm chopping with this, I'm using this area to chop. So with the same hand spacing, I'm very far off from being able to hit my hand. But with this, it won't chop well here. You need to use around here. And now, it's that much closer to my hand. And I did cut myself one time using this in this kind of a way. And somehow it bounced or something and I got myself there. Pretty sure that was that one there. So, wasn't a very bad cut, but it taught me a lesson about longer blades, you know. It's a lot harder to have complete control over what that point's doing, especially now if you're going to have some deflection or something, which is, like I say, I don't find that's an issue with this knife. But maybe something like a machete, I've heard, you know, they can be more dangerous in that aspect, in that regard, because you could have something very long that you had one course of travel intended for it, and it takes off on something completely different. Injury may result. Whereby I would say that this now, in this kind of close quarters thing, this knife loses out a bit, but you can do it, right? No problem. This I really enjoyed with this one, and these two, both very capable, you know, very different feeling, right? This one feels more like you're hogging in, you're beavering in, compared to this is more like you're cutting in. You know, what can I say? I mean, they're both cutting, right? But it's a much thinner geometry on the edge. So you get kind of more penetration, but less power. It just doesn't hit in there with the same kind of impetus, right? Mass. It's just about the mass, right? So yeah, also interesting maybe to look at the different grinds that we have on display here. 1, 2, 3, 4 different grinds. 5 even maybe on 4 knives. That's what I was thinking, because we're going to call that a Sabervex, Scandivex, Scandi into medium saber and high saber. And that alone will tell you so much, right? I mean, what are the grinds that are gonna work best for chopping? Well, my opinion. Do you want to see my face? Why not? In my opinion, my humble opinion, a convex edge is better for chopping. So, this has a convex edge, and this has a convex edge. And next best would be a low flat grind. And this has a very low flat grind, ergo a Scandi, and a medium flat grind. And the least adequate for chopping would be a flat grind, which we don't have, but the closest thing we have to that is a high saber. So yeah, again, Jacob B. Peterson, you're not wrong. What and when are you ever? You know? So not so choppy, and also definitely not so splitty. So if I'm going to split this thing here, I don't see why I would even bother. Oh, look, a slug. Hello. Put you down here on a leaf. Let you be a slugabed. So if I'm going to split this, I will use this. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to dig it in like that, and I'm going to bang it on a tree. On the dead bit. Out of respect for the oak. Won't be but a minute. One more? 2 more? Three more. Well, that looks like a nice bit there. The tree thing worked well. Right. So if I want to do some of this with this knife, awesome, love it. Long, constant sweep on the blade. Just use the whole thing like that. This has got a lot more bite to it, so it's a more refined motion. You can really get a similar result. Now, with the William Collins, you've got this guy. Runs like a recurve Scandi, because that's what it is. And you can also hog in at the end there with that tooth, or just chop in. Or you can, you know, use the flat, whatever. And it does all of that very well. Now, this comes into its own. I can feel and hear how it sings. Don't have that control on the angle with this part. Down here, yes, but not with the whole free hand, free arm sweep of the blade. So, in regard of just flattening this thing out, if it's hogging, number 1. And if it's gentle, like this kind of thing, relegated. So yeah, this is not a finishing knife. This is a get things done in a hurry knife. You know, blammo. And this is my opinion, actually, with William Collins knives. Well, is that my opinion? No, and all of my opinions are wrong. I've noticed that, because whenever I listen to one of my wonderful videos, being, you know, my own greatest fan probably, I noticed that I talk a lot of nonsense and that my opinions are invariably wrong. So, but yeah, it just cuts. It cuts so hard that if you want this kind of control thing, now you need to have more mastery of the knife than I possess. But of course, one can learn. And so I think that I thought I was a pretty skilled knife user until I started playing around with one of these, and then, you know, I compared this to like my knife that I made, and I'm like, this knife cuts more. It cuts twice as much, but I like using mine better. I find it easier and less tiring and so forth. So I haven't given it the time yet, right? But I think if I wanted to be a guy who can go into the woods and build himself in 1 hour a wood cabin, right? This would be the knife that you would want to know how to learn to use, because you'll chop a tree, same as you will do debarking and all this stuff. You can, and it's incredibly solid, right? Now this guy, to me, I you know, the huntsman, right? So something that I don't really do is hunting and skinning. I have hunted a couple of times as a child, rabbits, so forth. And I have skinned a couple of times recently, you know, something, what was it? There was a porcupine that my wife shot. And then more recently, I found a dead deer. I found a fawn in the forest, and it was dead, freshly, recently dead. So I took it home and skinned it and fed it to the dogs. So I have a notion of what it feels like to skin, right? And I'm thinking that if you were to be skinning a big animal, this would be awesome, you know? This would work really well. And then after that, I'm just guessing here, guesstimating. I would think that this would probably be, you know, on a similar level, depending, and then it would be kind of down to personal preference, right? But they have, I guess, the right kind of geometry for skinning. And now this, you could definitely do it, but again, you would need more familiarity with the knife. I don't think it would be as intuitive. But it's an incredibly sharp knife, so I mean, you know, you might have more trouble with not getting that point poked through the hide or whatever. And then this, I think, also would be great for, you know, whatever, skinning a wildebeest or something, some big thing. But it's a real handful, you know. Maybe at points you would be using it kind of like a machete user to get in and do your fine work, right? Based on, you know, this is like a story about being written by someone who's only ever heard about something and never seen it for themselves in person. Well, I think that about does it. You know, maybe I'll look into doing a little bit more of the kind of fine curl whittling, where I think if you get into this fine stuff like this, actually, then this knife once again really shines. if you're, this knife needs a lot of control, right? But if you're putting all your awareness into it, then it gives in heapfuls, you know, and it just cuts so easily. And that, you know, I believe that William Collins has a reputation that is not hype. As the great Jaco Pastorius once said, it ain't bragging if it's true. Now, he was punched to death outside a nightclub, so, you know. But, lovely. Just lovely. You know, definitely more like the feeling of the Leuku that I recently acquired as a result of me putting this on the Tormac for a while. I might have had it that I might have taken 45 minutes reworking this whole bevel here, and it's paying off for me, because I always liked this knife. I thought it was very cool in every respect, except that if I took it out and cut stuff with it, it was just meh. And that's the difference. Now, the factory edge, if you can call it a factory edge, and I think you can, because I was listening to an interview with Jake of Very Good Knife Company last night on Scab and Joe Blade Talk. Check it out if you're interested in these knives and in this guy Jake. I'm not sure of his surname, but he's a very interesting knife maker, and he makes very good knives. And you know, he rates himself, and that's good. Some of the stuff that he said really kind of stuck with me. You know, that he was, and look at the finish on this. You know, and you know, let's say that William Collins, for example,